What if the most feared bomber of the Russian Air Force could be shot down by a simple drone? Welcome to the Strategic Flow, where each analysis reveals the behind the scenes of global power. Today we uncover how Ukraine took down one of Moscow's deadliest bombers, the Tu-22M3, using a relatively cheap and silent weapon, a drone. What seems like an isolated attack actually exposes the systemic erosion of Russian air power and could reshape the next chapters of the war. In Russia's air arsenal, few aircraft carry as much symbolic and strategic weight as the supersonic Tu-22M3 bomber, known as the carrier killer. This Soviet-era machine was designed to destroy large warships, and for decades it fulfilled that role with authority. But now the narrative has changed, because in the middle of 2024, this key piece of Russian military deterrence was taken out by a simple Ukrainian drone, a surgical strike that not even Vladimir Putin could anticipate, let alone prevent. It was the RBC Ukraine agency that brought to light what may be one of the boldest attacks of the war so far. On April 9th, the commander-in-chief of the Ukrainian Armed Forces, Oleksandr Syrskyi, confirmed that a Tu-22M3 was successfully destroyed. As usual, operational details remained under wraps, but what Syrskyi revealed is already telling. The aircraft was hit shortly after landing, suggesting a coordinated tracking and attack operation. It's likely that Ukraine monitored the bomber during or right after yet another attack mission, followed by a drone counterstrike as soon as it returned to its base. Result: one of the Kremlin's deadliest aircraft reduced to wreckage, and a Russian pilot going from the euphoria of a completed mission to the shock of seeing his steel giant engulfed in flames. According to the Kiev Independent, Syrskyi's statements are still awaiting official verification. But if accurate, the Ukrainian attack didn't just destroy a bomber. It eliminated a military asset valued at approximately $100 million, a figure that, on its own, already conveys the strategic impact of the operation. The Tu-22M3 isn't just an expensive piece of Russia's inventory. It's one of the pillars of Moscow's Air Force, an attack platform capable of shifting the balance in war theaters. Still, silence prevails. Syrskyi revealed neither the exact location nor the date of the offensive, and so far, neither Kiev nor Moscow has officially confirmed the aircraft's loss. But what's unfolding behind the scenes is clear. There's a game of intelligence and disinformation at play, and each day without official confirmation only amplifies the symbolic reach of the attack. But after all, why does the destruction of a Tu-22M3 matter so much? To understand the impact, you need to look beyond the headline and dive into the specifications of this aerial giant. Called backfire by NATO, the Tu-22M first took flight in 1969. Yes, it's a Cold War relic, but unlike many aging tanks or obsolete artillery pieces that Moscow has been throwing into Ukraine, this bomber remains dangerously effective. It was designed as a strategic platform for land and maritime attacks, operated by a crew of 4. The downed version, the Tu-22M3, is the most advanced in the series, a significant upgrade from the original design. The first time this model saw combat wasn't during the Cold War, but years later, in regional conflicts involving Russia, first in Afghanistan, between 1987 and 1989, and later in Chechnya in the mid-90s. The Tu-22M3 combines the technological legacy of the Soviet era with updates that have made it, to this day, one of the greatest air threats against Ukrainian targets. And that's exactly what makes its destruction a significant milestone in the ongoing air campaign. The Tu-22M3 doesn't just impress with its strength, but with its engineering. Its origin traces back to the Soviet Union's first supersonic bomber, a breakthrough that broke the sound barrier and solidified Moscow's air power. The M3 model is equipped with variable geometry wings, capable of adjusting their sweep between 20 and 65 degrees during flight, optimizing performance depending on the mission. Onboard, 4 crew members operate in 2 cores, pilots in the front, navigation and weaponry in the back. The cockpits are armored with metal screens against nuclear blasts, and each member has a functional ejector seat above 80 miles per hour, an aircraft built to attack and survive. Behind the robust silhouette of the Tu-22M3 is a propulsion system designed to ensure redundancy in combat. 2 NK-25 engines with afterburners power the aircraft, allowing it to stay airborne even if one fails, a detail that drastically reduces the risk of loss due to technical failure mid-mission. Despite the model's age, The bomber carries an advanced technological suite: radar, optical sight with internal screen transmission, autopilot, and an integrated weapons control system. All of this facilitates navigation, bombing accuracy, and flight stability. And defense wasn't overlooked either. The Tu-22M3 comes equipped with electronic countermeasures, such as radar sensors, chaff, and flare launchers, creating a protective bubble to evade enemy missiles. In short, an aircraft built to attack with precision, withstand threats, and return home intact. The true power of the Tu-22M3 lies in its offensive capability, and that's what makes its destruction so strategic for Ukraine. This aircraft can carry up to 3 Kh-22M missiles, designed to annihilate targets both on land and at sea. One is mounted under the fuselage, the other two under the wings. And that's just the start. Its arsenal also includes 6 hypersonic missiles, prepared for anti-ship and anti-radiation roles, increasing its versatility on the battlefield. When armed with bombs, the Tu-22M3 can carry up to 69 FAB-250s or 8 of the heavy FAB-1500s, exactly the munitions Russia has been converting into glide bombs to hit Ukrainian cities with extended range and reasonable accuracy. Neutralizing a bomber with this destructive payload isn't just a tactical victory, it's direct relief for Ukrainian infrastructure and a sign that Russian air supremacy is being challenged. The loss of a Tu-22M3 represents more than a dent in Russia's inventory. It's a crack in Putin's ability to devastate Ukraine from the air. And at the center of this is the Kh-22M missile, nearly 37 feet long and with a speed close to Mach 5. The Kh-22M was designed to pierce defenses with brutal efficiency. Its 600-kilometer range allows it to be launched from within Russia and still hit cities like Kiev or Kharkiv without ever crossing the front line. It's also versatile and lethal. It can carry conventional high-explosive warheads or nuclear warheads with up to 1 megaton of power. Every Tu-22M3 shot down doesn't just remove an attack platform. It directly weakens Russia's ability to project destruction deep into enemy territory. The Kh-22M isn't just fast, it's adaptable. It can fly at low altitudes at up to Mach 3.5 or climb to an impressive 89,000 feet, beyond the reach of most of Ukraine's air defenses. This flexibility, combined with its range and speed, makes the missile one of the hardest to intercept. That's why it has been Russia's preferred missile for attacking Ukrainian cities. Its unpredictable trajectory and extreme performance make response nearly impossible. The Kyiv Independent highlights that the Kh-22 has been a key piece in Russia's most destructive attacks. Eliminating a Tu-22M3, therefore, isn't just about downing a plane. It's about preemptively cutting off the launch line for dozens of these missiles in the coming months. Direct relief for urban centers that have lived under the constant threat of supersonic attack. To worsen this strategic scenario, Russia has been exploring a simple and devastating solution: converting unguided FAB-type bombs into glide bombs. With modification kits costing between $20,000 and $30,000, Moscow turns basic munitions into long-range projectiles, launchable from safe zones, far from the front line. These bombs don't have surgical precision, but that doesn't matter to the Kremlin. The kits come with satellite navigation systems, allowing them to glide to the target's general area. And that's where Russia's equation lies. They don't need to be precise, just lethal. The low cost and high destructive capacity create the ideal combination for a saturation campaign, something Ukraine knows all too well. The destructive power of a FAB-1500 is brutal: 1.5 tons of munition with over 1,300 pounds of explosive. For comparison, a standard Russian artillery shell carries just 14 pounds. In other words, a single FAB-1500 is equivalent to nearly 100 artillery shots. And it's precisely this concentrated power that makes the Tu-22M3 so valuable to Moscow. Each aircraft can launch dozens of these bombs at once, turning urban centers into targets of massive impact. According to Ukrainian estimates, by January, Russia had already launched over 51,000 glide bombs, an average of nearly 1,500 per month, with even higher numbers in 2024. Downing a Tu-22M3 doesn't eliminate the threat entirely, but it significantly weakens Russia's air saturation capacity. Putin still has bombers, but each loss reduces his margin of intimidation. And for Ukraine, that means less destruction and more time to breathe. Ukraine perfectly understands the strategic value of each Tu-22M3 taken out of the skies and acts with precision. The April 9th attack may have drawn attention for its boldness, but it's part of an ongoing campaign against this specific type of bomber. In April 2024, for the first time, Ukrainian anti-aircraft units managed to shoot down a Tu-22 M3, returning from an attack on the Dnipropetrovsk region. The crash occurred on Russian territory in Stavropol Krai. Moscow attributed the incident to a technical failure, but Kyiv claimed something very different, that the plane was shot down with an S-200, a 1960s air defense system, considered obsolete by many analysts. In practice, Ukraine used a Cold War weapon to take down an active relic of Russia's Air Force. A clear message: even means considered outdated can be deadly if used at the right moment. Almost a year after its first victory against a Tu-22 M3, Ukrainian drone operators struck again, once more downing the bomber that symbolizes Russian air power. But this wasn't an isolated case. On July 30th, 2024, Ukraine carried out a long-range attack against the Olenya Air Base in the remote Murmansk province. Two Tu-22 M3 bombers were damaged, including one that had been under restoration for months. The impact? Operational delays, rising costs, and logistical pressure for the Kremlin. And that wasn't the only target. In another attack, a Russian airfield located over 1,100 miles from the Ukrainian border was also hit. All this before the U.S. officially authorized the use of long-range missiles against targets inside Russia, underscoring the tactical effectiveness of Ukrainian drones, operating with surgical precision without directly relying on Western arsenals. Russian losses continue, even far from the battlefield. On April 2nd, a Tu-22 M3 crashed in Siberia. According to Moscow, the cause was a technical failure, and given that the incident site is over 2,500 miles from the Ukrainian border, it's unlikely there was direct action from Kyiv. But the end result is the same: another bomber out of service. And with that, a new question arises, not just about the effectiveness of Ukraine's campaign, but about the real resilience of Putin's fleet. To what extent can Russia keep its Tu-22 M3s in the air, even without direct attacks? Ukraine is slowly and methodically wearing down one of the pillars of Russian air power. According to Defense Express, Moscow would have around 57 Tu-22 M3 units. On paper, at least 5 are already out of action, 4 destroyed in attacks, and 1 lost in Siberia. That represents nearly 10% of the fleet, according to the National Security Journal. And the warning goes beyond combat losses. Most of these bombers date back to the Soviet era. They're old, resilient platforms, but in their terminal phase of operation. The Siberia crash reinforces this trend. Technical failures are becoming as lethal as Ukrainian drones. Over time, keeping these aircraft flying will require parts that no longer exist in sufficient numbers, forcing the Kremlin to ground part of the fleet. When we add this to Kyiv's direct attacks, what emerges is a slow operational collapse of one of Putin's most strategic weapons. Each Tu-22 M3 taken out of the skies weakens Russia's war effort twofold. It reduces the ability to launch glide bombs and restricts the use of cruise missiles against Ukrainian urban centers. But the impact goes beyond the battlefield. It weighs on Putin's military budget. It's estimated that each Tu-22 M3 costs around $100 million. That's without counting its payload. Up to 3 Kh-22 missiles, valued at $1 million each. Adding the aircraft and armament, a single loss can exceed $103 million. With 5 bombers already out of action, the direct economic damage surpasses $500 million. While Russia tries to maintain its air dominance with cheap and abundant weaponry, like FAB bombs, Ukraine is applying an asymmetric principle: destroy less to cause more. And the bill for the Kremlin keeps rising. Putin has already burned through over $200 billion in a war that, according to his own plans, was supposed to last just 1 week. Today, the daily costs of the conflict range between $500 million and $1 billion, an unsustainable pace, even for a military power. Losing 5 Tu-22 M3s, with damages exceeding $500 million, isn't just a logistical setback. It's a cost-benefit collapse. Each downed bomber represents not only lost money, but also the inability to replicate the damage it would have caused to Ukrainian infrastructure. And for the Kremlin, that's an equation that no longer adds up. The attack on the Tu-22 M3s is just one piece of a larger air offensive. Ukraine is systematically dismantling Moscow's air superiority, and each downed bomber widens this imbalance. By restricting Putin's ability to launch glide bombs and cruise missiles, Kyiv gains room to flip the script. Drones, and soon, F-16 fighters will be used more offensively, not just defensively. This shift in posture is already underway. On April 9th, Ukraine launched 158 drones against strategic targets in Crimea, including the Mozdok airfield, a base for MiG-31Ks, fighters capable of launching hypersonic missiles. Weeks earlier, it was the Engels airfield that was devastated, a key base for Russian bombings. These attacks don't just target aircraft, opening invisible corridors in Russian skies, corridors that soon could become attack routes. The success of hitting a Tu-22M3 with a drone wasn't by chance, it was a consequence. Early in the war, this kind of operation seemed unlikely, but the gradual attrition of Russia's air force opened gaps, and Ukraine is exploiting every one of them. The destruction of the bomber in April may have been just the beginning. What we're seeing could be the outline of a systematic campaign, silent, precise, to eliminate the attack vectors that, for so long, have punished Ukrainian cities. Putin knows what this means. The attack didn't just hit metal and turbines, it hit the confidence that his strategic assets are safe. And Kyiv's message is clear. The skies no longer belong to Russia. What does this attack reveal about the future of air warfare? Is Ukraine pioneering a new deterrence doctrine based on drones? Share your analysis in the comments. The exchange of perspectives enriches this debate. If this kind of analysis helps you better understand the world's movements, consider leaving a like and subscribing. Here at the Strategic Flow, every video is a piece of the global puzzle,